I would like to talk about something that I believe is very, very important. People who know me know that I'm an advocate for free speech. I believe free speech is absolutely fundamental to our society and definitely one of our inalienable rights as a citizen here in the UK. And it should be the same around the world, but unfortunately, it's lost. It's not. And something that I've been following for a while, and I just want to wait to see what happened from this. And we, in my opinion, we're sitting at a crossroads of democracy, civil liberties, and social cohesion. The UK government's move to formally define Islamophobia and the risks, both intended and unintended, that may follow. I'm not talking today about Muslims, nor against efforts to protect any community from hatred, discrimination, or violence against Muslims or any group are unacceptable. They must be confronted with seriousness and compassion. But I want to talk about something equally vital: the danger of allowing the state to define the boundaries of acceptable speech about a religion and the abuses that can follow when governments of any party gain power to police ideas, criticism, and debate. Now, you would say, well, why does the definition matter? Well, the UK government has recently introduced a new definition of anti Muslim hostility, describing it as a tool to better understand, measure, prevent, and address hatred towards Muslims. On the surface, I think we'd all agree that sounds reasonable. Who wouldn't want to reduce hostility and prejudice? But as the own government's counter-terrorism czar, Jonathan Hall, KC, has warned, the proposed definition risks inhibiting free speech about Islam and issues affecting its followers. He cautioned that loose and overly broad language could make people feel unable to speak openly about matters that are genuinely important to public life. And that's the heart of the problem, in my mind. I think there's a slippery slope towards the back door of blasphemy. Critics, including MPs, legal experts, and civil liberties advocates, have raised concerns that defining Islamophobia too broadly could create what some call, what I've just said, the backdoor blasphemy law. The courts and the police, the judiciary need to rely on something. But I don't understand why they've gone overtly out their way in this regard. The blasphemy law, whether explicit or disguised, gives the state the power to punish people for criticising a religion. Britain abolished its blasphemy laws for a good reason. They were incompatible with a modern, I guess, pluralistic democracy. They protected ideas instead of people. They shielded institutions instead of individuals. If the government's definition of Islamophobia begins to blur the line between hatred of people and criticism of ideas, we risk resurrecting the very thing we once proudly left behind. The abuse of power, thought police. Once the state gains the authority to define what constitutes unacceptable speech about religion, bear in mind we're only talking about one religion hereby, several dangers emerge. Political weaponization. Governments change, definitions remain. A future administration, left, right, or otherwise, could use a definition to silence critics, journalists, academics, or activists. Not because they're hateful, because it's just inconvenient. Chilling the effects of public debate, even if the definition is non-statutory, as the government insists. It will inevitably influence policing, education, public sector training, media guidelines, social media moderation, funding decisions. People will self-censor, not out of respect, but out of fear, which is so goddamn true. So true. This is scary. Unequal treatment of religions. Why should Islam receive a government-mandated definition, while criticism of Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, and atheism remains unregulated? Now, I'm not looking for this to happen to all religions. I believe in free speech, but one religion shouldn't have special protections over another. Equally before the law means no religion receives special protection from criticism. The importance of protecting free speech, even when it's uncomfortable. Free speech is not the freedom to be polite. It is the freedom to express ideas that others may find uncomfortable, challenging, or even offensive. The government claims a definition safeguards our fundamental right to freedom of speech. What an absolute load of bollocks. But rights are not safeguarded by government assurances. They are safeguarded by limits on government power. If we allow the state to define what counts as acceptable speech about Islam today, what stops it from defining acceptable speech about immigration tomorrow, gender the next day, foreign policy after that? Freedom dies not in one blow, but in a series of small, reasonable sounding steps, which is what's happening here. Just wait for this to start flowing in the court system. This is very serious. I believe the real solution is to protect people, not ideas. We must distinguish between hatred of Muslims, what is wrong, and what must be confronted. Criticism of Islam, what is a legitimate part of a democratic discourse. The government's own documents acknowledge the need to tackle anti-Muslim hostility while upholding free speech. But in my opinion, intentions are not enough. Definitions shape practice. The practice shapes consequences. The solution, in my mind, protect the individuals from harm. Do not protect ideas from scrutiny. This is what I believe. This is wrong on many, many levels. And we're going to see the consequences of this for years to come. Serious consequences. Serious consequences. Anyway, that's my thought.